Well, how are we doing? How are we doing? We're not belaboring long. We're having a great time, a great conversation, and great positioning. This is Dr. Gregory Clarke Sr. And once again, we welcome you to all this festivities called the Comeback Conversation with Dr. Clarke. Welcome you, welcome you, welcome you. So without further ado, let us start greeting everyone who is here, who made it here on time and was a part of the process of the beginning where we played a little bit of music because that's where my headspace is. Usually when I play some songs, that's where my headspace is. And so as we jump into the pre-topic before we go into the main teaching, you'll see why probably my mindset was where it was. Mr. William Richards, how are we doing today?
Well, we're doing fine, but they called Mike, but he didn't answer.
That is
I'm
great.
doing okay.
How's everything down there in St. Martin?
They're getting the plane, you could say, put together
Okay.
in a more excellent way, because then you see exactly how, let's say, for instance, they put like a truck like under the wing in order to keep the balance, for the other wing. So it's like they are creating a balance for both wings so that when they're ready, so they're ready to fly and up in the sky.
Okay. Good. That's great. That's great. So that means things are probably going to get even better as things flow forward. That's excellent. Oh my goodness. We are definitely in for a treat. We have Miss McIntyre out of the great state of Florida has joined us this evening. How is Miss McIntyre this evening? Let's see if she's not compromised helping anyone.
I am great. Thank you for asking.
No, it's great to have you here. It's great to have you here. I can't wait to have you experience what we do here each and every Tuesday evening. We won't labor long, but at the same time, it is great to see you and great to hear you. Amen. So thank you for joining us.
Likewise. Thank you.
Very welcome. Very welcome. Mr. Grinley, Mr. Brethren, the man who allowed me to dump the other day. It felt great. It felt great. Sometimes you need those spaces where you get to just and I know the other day I was just I had to get it out because you can't let stuff fester because then that's not good. It's not good for the inside. So how is Mr. Grinley out there on the Long of Island?
Alive and well, brother. And it's always good to be valued as someone who you can share stuff with and know the space it takes.
Amen. So I thank you for definitely joining us this evening. And now we're going to see if we actually going to see Miss Nicole Johnson. Since she had more than 24 hours, she had plenty of time. Let's see if we see Miss Johnson from the great borough of the Boogie. She got on Giants colors. So I can't even get on her today. She got on Giants colors. We made a change of quarterback. That probably made her pull out the shirt. She's like, wait, we got rid of the Wilson. She got rid of it. Now I can feel a little pride. I can pull that shirt up. And how are we doing today, Miss Johnson? She's trying to make sure her hair ain't compromised. We still can't hear you. You didn't. You compromised. You're compromised. Okay. We got you. Well, then let me just jump right into it because I think I got everyone so far who's made it in. Whoever comes in later, they just catch up where they catch up at. But I'm going to start the conversation today in reference to picking up to not so much to stir some controversy up, but just to see how you feel about this. Let's see. Let's get that down. Okay, there we go. Okay. Why are you, Dr. Clarke, starting off with this? Well, we started to recognize that we're moving into a season where it seems like, especially with Kamala Harris doing her interviews, and we're seeing more and more how this country has, even regardless if they don't want to call it a mistake or not, but the way how things have been handled since January 20th at 12:01 p.m., since the current administration has taken the reins of this country, we've seen in the span of months, not years, we've seen in the span of months how certain things have hit the fan and things have kind of went in the way have they been waiting. Now, some of you may not know the picture on the left is a woman called Laura Loomer. Laura Loomer. She is a far right podcaster and all that stuff. Probably you could say in a little bit of the vein of Charlie Kirk, in that type of vein, that extreme right, that extreme more white nationalist, a very vehement Trump supporter. But the reason why I have both of these pictures, and then on the right, we have the lovely representative from the state of Texas who, they've done their trickery and gerrymandering down there. And she's one of the reasons why they're trying to make sure she doesn't get reelected back for 2026 in the space of Representative Jasmine Crockett. And so the woman on the left decided this past week, because the woman on the right would not go along with the Charlie Kirk resolution for this Day of Remembrance that passed, that will occur on October 14th. It's interesting. There's a bunch of interesting people that have October 14th birthday, including Charlie Kirk. That was also the birthday of George Floyd. And so there's a lot of ramifications around this, but it's a day of remembrance, whereas they're going to acknowledge the fact that this man, I'm not going to call him, he was assassinated. I will never put assassinated in Charlie Kirk. He was murdered. And we don't wish that on anyone. And we still pray for his wife, who was taking over that still far right, entity of Turning Point USA, and the children. You don't wish that on anyone. That's just having some empathy and being human. The same way we would hope that them on the extreme right would consider themselves to have some empathy and come a little bit to the center. But it seems like these people don't want to do that. But we're not. But the reason why I have these pictures up is that wish to stimulate a dialogue in regards to the fact that the woman on the left decided to say that the woman on the right was a ghetto black B. And I would say the word, but I don't know if it'll get me in trouble. I don't know. I don't think we should be calling, especially black women the B word, because I know, if I say the word bitch, that just reminds me of a female dog. But, this one on the left felt empowered to say that this woman on the right, who was a lawyer, who was very accomplished from an educational standpoint, who has served the state of Texas before she became a United States representative. And now she's one of those individuals that the president of the United States has under his, I would say, his scope, as much as that we wouldn't want to say that in this season, but it is what it is. He has so much of a focus on her because she is a very diligent, how should I say, non-supporter of the current administration. So I'm just bringing this up so we can see that we've noticed, especially in these past couple of months, there's been a vehement attack on Black females, especially here in the United States. And when we hear like how Kamala Harris has now clarified some of the stuff that is coming out in her book, the vitriol people was initially getting caught up in the shock value to say, oh my gosh, she was throwing Biden under the bus. Now, as everything is really slowly coming out, everything that this woman is saying is the truth. The Biden administration didn't really position Kamala Harris for success. That's not you throwing someone under the bus. That's just you stating the facts. And as things are coming out now, people are starting to show that there was different friction even within the administration, whereas, certain things Kamala was desiring to be more front and towards in the forefront. And they would say, let the president do it, let the president do it. And then when they made the decision last June after the disastrous debate and finally decided in early July that, okay, we're going to have him step down and now she'll take over the reins. You really can't do a campaign in 107 days. You can't. Let's be real. Let's keep it a buck. So she did kind of have one hand tied behind the other. And even though she didn't become president, it still showed a little bit of the misogyny of the United States, as if we can't have a woman in the big chair. So I would just like to see if we can open up some mics to stimulate a conversation in regards to, is this the new normal that, white women can feel that they can be disrespectful regardless of social media, feel comfortable enough that they can call our women bees? And the floor is open. Who would like to?
I'll kick it off. First of all, I think you're a very kind person for choosing that image of Laura Loomer because she don't look like that.
I'm attempting to be nice. I am.
She is 32 American years old, while Jasmine Crockett is 44.
Looks busted. She looks ugly.
Okay, so
Busted.
I got the petty out the way.
Nice. See,
I got the petty out the way.
Okay.
Okay, so a alleged valedictorian of her private Catholic school with a BA in political science and journalism is challenging the intelligence, the tact, and the overall knowledge of a Black woman with a Juris Doctoris and years in college.
Come on.
The one thing I would disagree with you with is you're saying that, is this the new normal for white women to be disrespectful to Black women?
No, because they usually
that never changed.
Black men. They usually try to be slick, and they kind of Karens try to play themselves when it comes to Black men. I've known that, but usually, white women had a little bit of sense to be like, yo, don't mess.
No, I went to college upstate New York. It's been like that.
Teach me.
98 to 2001. It's been like that. White women are threatened, unfortunately, and for some reason, always threatened by Black women who are just trying to go about their business, not get attacked or harassed. So this is the normal. She's just been given a larger stage to put it on display. And it's with the advent of Trump, you no longer have to hide your true feelings, whether that be race, gender, sexuality. It's a free-for-all. So
wow.
Hopefully this will not be the new normal, but it's the new normal. And I just want to say I'm glad you're all here. We didn't get caught up in the rapture. I'm complete.
I was initially going to lead off with that. But see, me as a minister, hearing all the rhetoric, and I started seeing it Sunday. It was like, prepare Monday. And then you saw on Monday all over social media, people were talking about, I'm giving away some of my possessions because we're about to be caught up in the sky. And I'm like, wait a minute, what is going on here? And it started building and building and building. And then there were people on the far right, and some evangelicals were going real bonkers on social media talking about, this is the time, let go of your earthly materialism because, we're about to be caught up in the sky to be removed from this space and removed from this plane. And it's like, this reminded me so much because I'm old enough to say that I was born in the 70s. And I remember in like 1988, 89, they kept saying we were going to see 1990, that the world was going to end. We weren't going to see the 90s. And somehow we made it to 1990. And then when Y2K hit, it wasn't only about, worrying about the computers screwing everything up and we was going to have mass hysteria and craziness was going to go down. But we're not going to see it because people were using the Prince song as an excuse and all this other stuff saying, no, we're not going to see the year 2000. We made it to the year 2000. So this just lets you know sometimes where religion can be used not only as a caveat of being in a space of control, but at the same time, why the current administration was able to get in office, because a bunch of individuals who probably never even made it to college, who some are probably reading on a 8th grade, if that high, reading level or below, put this man in office because of the lies that he purported during the campaign, because he hasn't lowered. First of all, he didn't stop the war. First, that was one of the other promises. He'll stop the war in one day. The war in Ukraine is still going on. If anything, he's helped Israel exacerbate what is going on in Gaza. And if you just have just a basic heart, not even if you're not a feeling person, the stuff that's happening in Gaza is disgusting. And it's great to see, at least during this General Assembly that's happening here at the United Nations that, you have a bunch of nations now who are recognizing Palestine as a state, as they should have been recognized. Because if we're talking about, it can't be so one-sided that we're not saying Israel shouldn't exist, but come on now. This is getting a little bit off. It's almost like how we started off this topic with this white woman and this black woman. If Jasmine Crockett was out there calling white women white bees, then everyone would be in an uproar. Oh my gosh, she's so divisive and this, that, and the third. But then initially, until Laura Loomer started catching the hell and the backlash, and all of a sudden she started to attempt to try to pull back the words, but then she couldn't. And then now she's catching the vitriol online and social media streets because people are like, wait a minute, y'all are starting to take this thing too far. Y'all starting to make this come up and a little bit, too much, as if you walking down the street now, like, it's supposed to be the new normal. And we're here to push back to let us know, like, no, this is not the new normal. We're not going to allow you to disrespect us as black men. We definitely not going to allow you to disrespect black women. And at the same time, male or female, y'all can all catch the heat. And it's disrespectful. So I don't care if you're a Laura, a Karen, or wherever you are, it's disrespectful. But anyone else wish to chime in with their thoughts? Because I desire for this not to be a monologue. We're here to have conversations and have the ability to articulate these respective things that are happening around us. Because even though you may feel it doesn't affect you, but when people start getting that feeling like they can open up themselves to feel like they can be in that space where they can be outwardly disrespectful, because we've known plenty of times people have had their viewpoints. And there was like an unwritten rule, you can tell who the racists are. They don't mess with you. You don't mess with them. Okay, there's a boundary line. No one's crossing. At least we know each other. I know how to navigate with you. But now they've just stepped over the line and making it seem as if this is just now like we as African descent supposed to just accept this as a new normal, and we're not. So who would like to open up next? The floor is open.
This is Carol.
Go ahead, Miss McIntyre.
I definitely agree with Nicole, and even her last point that everything begins with the head. We're in presidency. I've never in my how many years seen this type of leadership. And so hate, people are empowered now just to be hateful. And they're no longer covert with it. They're very overt because that's the head. Everything flows from the head to the beard, right? If we should look at it from a spiritual perspective. And then it spews out to the world at large or to the nation at large. So the disrespect is not just woman to woman or woman to man. It's just all over. It's just in general. People are feeling more and more comfortable to show the hate, to show the disrespect. There's no longer any morality around that. People just do whatever they feel like doing. I mean, I'm in the Bible Belt, living in the South, coming from the North is just so different that the hate people are so, and then the thing that they add to it is the whole idea of he's a Christian man or we're Christians. Where? How? So I think it just comes from the head. And until leadership changes, we're going to continue to see the hate just increase in America. And I'm complete.
Thank you for that thought. And it's so empowering that you said that, because for those of us who know that Trump is originally from New York, and we know that Trump was never a religious person. So it boggles the mind. Whereas when you see the Heritage Foundation or all these respected far-right groups who have been creating these blueprints, like the Project 2025 or Project Esther, and all the other things that now, see, Trump is really a very good puppet, because Trump is not truly a Republican, just like he was never a Democrat. Remember, Trump has never served anyone before he decided to run for president. Think about that for a second. That means we have someone who has gotten able to be in the White House at least 2 times who didn't serve anyone but himself. And this is who the far right, the evangelicals, and all this stuff that you hear about saying that we'll pray for our president, which we should, because should desire for him to move justly if we're moving from a spiritual aspect. But to see his ways of being, you know, we can say he's the king of, or attempted to be the king of Assyria, or Nebuchadnezzar, or whatever it is that we want to see. If we're going to go from a spiritual standpoint, it's like, yo, you are not thinking about the people. You don't care about the people. You care about yourself. You care about enriching yourself. You care about making sure you're taking care of you and yours. Now that we can see. But when it comes to governing, other than getting the big, beautiful bill passed, which has already started the process of cutting people off of SNAP, which by next year, December, will take at least between 11 to 12 million people off of health care, or they will lose their health care. It's like, what are we doing? And all the different cuts that keeps happening, how the aid that we used to send to other countries from a humanitarian, see, that's the thing that's so scary, from a humanitarian standpoint. And all I can say is that the universe is not mocked. And like, it's true. Sometimes even if we probably leave the country and go visit other countries, we probably start telling us this is, look, I apologize for what you are seeing or experiencing because of the person that's in the White House. I may have not necessarily voted for him, but I'm still an American, and we apologize. We're going to apologize for him because he won't have the muscle or the common sense to apologize for some of the stuff that he says, or some of the ways that he acts, and ways in being, how he stimulated this underbelly of individuals, as Ms. McIntyre and Ms. Johnson has said very powerfully, that they're just coming out the woodwork now, and now they're not hiding it. They're feeling that everything's in Front Street, and that, you know, they're entitled to their opinion. And so anyone else? We've heard the ladies speak. Any gentlemen wish to jump in? Any gentlemen?
I always have a question.
Go ahead, sir.
Right? My question is this. All the countries in the vicinity of Israel, let's just say there are 15 countries, Arab, whatever, and they say, we are going to send 1,000 18-wheelers into Gaza to feed the people. And if perchance one of those trucks should be fired upon some kind of military artillery or something, if one is fired upon, what we will unleash on those who have decided that that was a good idea will be historic. Why is such an idea like that never surfacing?
Number one, because of the region that, see, we have to look at it from a geopolitical standpoint. Let me stop sharing. Let's go in there. From a geopolitical standpoint, those nations like the Syrias, the Libyas, the Turkeys, the Yemens, and stuff like that, a lot of them are small countries. The only thing is that they're very oil rich. And so if you're talking about some sort of attacking each other in that region of the world, you're talking about being disruptive when it comes to world commerce, gas prices, oil prices will go skyrocketing. Also, you would say that now, instead of Europe, because almost every world war was started because of Europe, you would almost say that that would be the benchmark of starting the potentiality of some level of world war. Because now you have countries that would start picking sides, and now that opens up further conflict and further possibility. And I want to choose my words properly. Further possibility in conflict. And the reason why that's not beneficial for us, and we should even be wary of that as well, is that we're understanding that we're no longer just United States citizens. That's why as this country, as this global community has been able to move more closer together because of the advantageousness of the internet, all the satellites that we have hovering around the earth, and information now is instantaneous, or we can get information real quickly. Like I said before, there was a time in the 80s where I can remember being still young enough to go to Jamaica and come back, and people say, whatever America has, and they're so far advanced than us. That's no longer the case. A person like William Richards can know exactly what's going on globally the same way that I would know about it, excuse me, here in New York. So now that the lines of communication are much more applicable, now we're being well positioned to recognize that we're global citizens. So when we see the Palestinians and some of these people are dying because of starvation, because Israel is choking their neck and not allowing aid to come in, now it becomes the process of that maneuvering. That's why how the United Nations convenes itself every year here in New York for the General Assembly, which is always in the month of September, to go back to the fact when it used to be the League of Nations during World War II. But it's supposed to be a time frame where, all the intellectuals are supposed to come. And we know Trump said his foolish speech today and, having the main chamber. But it's supposed to be a time frame for us to see, like, we're seeing some of these conflicts. Like before the advantageousness of smartphones and stuff like that have been like, that report of people being starving to death, like 30, 40 years ago, it would have took time. You'd have had to send journalists out there. You'd have to sneak people in behind the front, the front lines and try to be guerrilla journalism. Like I remember when I got my bachelor's degree, when we had to do news journaling and news gathering, and you had to cite your sources and you couldn't just put stuff out there just because you felt like it. You had to verify certain things before you could print. And now with Facebook, Substack, Patreon, Discord, Telegram, wherever it is, you got a platform. You can easily say, that's why all of these fringe groups have blown up, because now once they get a little spot, they start promoting what they're doing in this little corner of the web. And then all of a sudden that little corner seems like you initially think it's a little corner, and next it's like hundreds of thousands, then millions, and then it's like, whoa. There's a lot of people that have some of these kind of viewpoints of like, this MAGA thing, make America great again. What are you talking about, pre-1955? Are you talking pre-civil rights movement? Are you talking about, black, other citizens being subservient to whites? Or things is really supposed to be just structured for white people and we just getting crumbs? And we getting back to being segmented in how they built up the projects to put people in those respective and ugly spaces? So we just have to understand the respective game. So no, the reason why even Israel is not dumb enough to do that, but it's a stalemate because Israel is controlling all the access points. And so if another country attempts to enter in and it's not really, it's a very dicey issue. And that's what makes it more disgusting, because even if the people of Israel were trying to go from the biblical standpoint, say, we're the chosen people, you're not acting like the chosen people. God was there for the oppressed. And if you remember oppression, and basically the people who are there in Israel now are more or less European transplants. So you're not even indigenous to the area. You just have the belief system, which is fine. But let's keep it 100 and say you're not indigenous to this area. And now the people who have been there for thousands and tens of thousands of years and been in that area, and ever since 1948, when it was like, okay, we're creating the state of Israel, and it's like, because at one point England was controlling Palestine. The England kind of, let its hands off of it and saying, okay, we're creating this state. Okay, we're going to back up off of it. Back up off of the area. So there's a lot of intricacies that come into play that we should be abreast of. And that's the reason why we're having these conversations, because it's not about just, being up in the air as an intellectual. Sometimes we got to get down there and be like, yo, what is going on around me? And not just only my backyard, because I wouldn't want something to break out, or this president thinks the way he can try to manipulate having some level of martial law is now all of a sudden we're at war. Or they conjure up a war. And all of a sudden I have 2 young Black men who are my sons, and I wouldn't want to hear anything about drafted, or they trying to look for people to fight what? To fight in what? Something that y'all conjured up? No. So that's part of the process of recognizing. We have to keep being aware of those respective things and spaces. So any other thoughts before we get into tonight's main teaching? Any other?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Franklin.
So you mentioned about knowing what's in our backyard. So knowing what's in our backyard, do we put the focus on the government in our backyard, or the local, where it starts with the mayor and the sheriff, and then move out from there and over to the presidential side?
Well, all politics, that's a good question. All politics start local. If you're not abreast of what's going on in your own backyard, then worrying about who's in the White House is one thing. But if you're not abreast of what's going on with you locally, see, that's how politics start. That's why when the governor of Texas decided that they did what they did and saying, oh, so in our state, because remember, we're all the United States of America. It's not that Texas, all the Texas laws are going to translate to Florida or Florida to New York. No, these are Texas laws. So in Texas, they started to play themselves. They says, oh, we're going to get rid of Jasmine Crockett and some of these other guys. I think it's another representative, Alfred, who went up against Cruz and almost beat him for Senate. Now we're going to gerrymander and redistrict and recreate the lines of the districts so that these people who are Democrats might end up losing, because most of the people in these now reconfigured lines or reconfigured districts mainly vote Republican. So that means that Jasmine Crockett could lose her seat, not because she was a terrible representative or she didn't represent the state well, or at the same time making sure that she's given some sort of balance to be responsible and has served people, but we just want to get rid of her. Because the president said, I need 5 extra seats. I desire for Texas to give me 5 extra seats and, get rid of some of these people who are being thorns. That's all it is. The same way how Jimmy Kimmel is coming back tonight, based on the night of this taping, Jimmy Kimmel is coming back to the airways tonight. And even I said, it is a victory, but people shouldn't be, none of us should be out there like clapping like, yay, we won. No. These are the opening salvos. They got rid of Colbert because Colbert was a thorn in his behind. Satirists who are understandably part of the mechanism of recognizing, we're supposed to speak truth to power. We're seeing what you're doing. We don't like this. Got nothing to do with we may have the same skin. We're seeing what you're doing. We're supposed to be here to help people. Now, there's nothing wrong as being a capitalist that you're there to create wealth for yourself. I ain't knocking that. I'm all for that. But not at the expense that you're treating people in a distasteful manner. So when it goes back to you recognizing your politics always start local. I remember there were days when even sometimes politics start in your school districts. I remember when Dr. Cheryl Clarke, when our kids were in school, this was a woman who went to Catholic school and private school her whole, scholastic 12 years. So she never knew what it was to deal with New York City public schools. And all of a sudden she started getting an inroad, became friendly with the principal, our local principal. All of a sudden she got on the PTA, and then she became the president of the PTA, and she started to recognize like, whoa, okay, some of the funding that the school gets into, the PTA does have some power. It can help maneuver or influence because it's really for the kids. So wait a minute, so the PTA, even though it's not a voted in political position, it shows the possibility and the power of where we can be established as we move forward. And so, yes, Mr. Franklin, all politics start local. Like here in New York City, everyone's focused on the mayor's race. Now that, Labor Day has passed and now we're in autumn, now all of a sudden it's ramping up. These candidates and people who desire to be the next mayor, they're crisscrossing the city now. Why? Because they recognize it's a piece of power. Politics start local. You're talking about the number one demographic city in the whole United States, New York. And so if you're the mayor in New York, that doesn't mean that you have more power than the governor, but you have a lot of influence. So now it's about who holds that influence. So yes, always make sure that you are abreast of what's going on from your local sheriffs, if you have aldermen, if you have councils, if you have mayors, if you have town supervisors, however it is that you lay down, even up to your HOA meetings, because that's part of politics. Because sometimes you can get a little whiff or wind about certain, movements are happening. You're like, okay, let me go to this HOA meeting. And all of a sudden you see now people are carrying on and, maybe people running, there's a whole room of red hats. And you're like, oh, okay, we see what's going on here. Without having to say a word. And that's not even making an assumption because they're speaking even without speaking. So yes, Mr. Franklin, make sure that you are abreast of what's going on locally. Amen. So,
I have another question.
Go ahead.
So with this movement of the Democrats that is going on, looking at this thing from a future standpoint, do you think they're trying to move into dictatorship even after Trump is out of the seat?
Well, the only way a dictatorship happens if we allow it. And that's the reason why all the awareness and the antennas are up now, because we've seen some of the plays that this administration has been attempting to do. It started in June when he attempted to send the National Guard to Los Angeles, even though the mayor of Los Angeles, who happens to be a Black woman, and the governor of the state, who happens to be a Democrat, didn't ask for you to send them there. And you created more chaos attempting to send the National Guard in under your orders and ICE over there because you're looking for illegals. Whereas when the people were protesting, there was no drama. LAPD had everything under control. You want to send the National Guard into a situation that's under control. Makes no sense. Fast forward, what he's done in DC, attempting to take over and mandate that now he's putting the National Guard. Yes, they've been there for a little bit of while, but at the same time, crime was going down anyway. As the Black female mayor and the Black female police chief have all not only been doing law enforcement, but recognize the fact that some of these people may have mental health issues. It started working it from that angle, not just jumping and using force. And all of a sudden, every single major statistic of crime started going down quickly and powerfully. And now you want to jump in with the National Guard. And now the same way he's threatened to send them to Chicago, and now he's talking about sending them to Memphis, Tennessee. It's all a ploy. Or even when he tried to slip up and say, oh, I may send them to New York, you know that won't go down. That won't go down. I don't care if Mayor Adams is his boy or not. That won't go down. Nobody's going to accept the fact that you sending troops. What are you sending? What would be the purpose other than trying to prove that you have federal muscle, which shows that that's why we, the people, as it says in the preamble, we, the people, have to step up because the people got Jimmy Kimmel back online. But the fight's not over. We didn't win anything. And I can't wait till tonight at the night of the taping when I'm definitely watching that tonight. Because I know he has to say something. It may not be something that Disney or ABC may like, but he has to say something. Because that's First Amendment. What they attempted to suspend them for was not offending. Now we're getting to the space now that the government is using their power to try to censor people. You're going against the First Amendment. That's clear, that's definitive, and it doesn't happen. I don't have to agree with what you say. And if people can be on the far right or the far left or in the middle, and they're expressing their viewpoints, as long as they're not being distasteful which a lot of the far right does, and even sometimes some far left. But if they're not out there trying to cause harm or physical damage, they have the right to express themselves. You don't have to like it. If you don't like it, turn the channel. You don't have to listen to it. But to censor it now, that's one of the main reasons why this country was allegedly founded upon. And I see Mr. Richards had his mic open. Mr. Richards, the floor is yours.
You know, it's nevertheless like Israel. And the question is asked, you know, what land did God give to Israel? How big is Israel?
Well,
because when you look at the summary of it, right in Genesis, right from the Nile to the Euphrates, spans across to this Israel, Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Egypt, Sinai, Iraq, and parts of Saudi Arabia and Kuwait. It is far more larger, like I said, the modern Israel today, symbolize both a physical inheritance and a spiritual covenant. Because when he made a covenant, he made a covenant with Abraham. He was not Abraham yet, but he was Abraham. And that's where he established the covenant. And then you look at the span of Israel. It's much more than, you know, the eye could contain, because you look at it, it's just a small peaceful land. But it's much more bigger than, you know, the eye can contain, according to the Bible. Now I'm complete.
Thank you for that. That's a very good observation. And, you know, from all of us being global citizens, that is a very concise and thoughtful statement. And I'm seeing, as always, Ms. Johnson, a wealth of information. Said top 10 cities for murder rate. Yeah, Jackson, Mississippi. You know, we ain't going to talk about Trey Reed. St. Louis, Missouri, another red state. So far, I'm seeing Birmingham, Alabama on this list that she produced, another red state. Baltimore, Maryland, okay. But Baltimore is actually going down because Westmore is the governor of Maryland. And then they have the young black brother who, Brandon, I forgot his last name, but he's doing great work there, and he's using some of the same tactics that Ms. Bowser in DC did. It's like, yo, we're going to still do law enforcement, but now we're recognizing what happens if we start opening up the schools again, give some of these kids who had nothing to do something to do. What happens if we open up them YMCAs or those rec centers where maybe some of the stuff, maybe those spaces where they can learn a trade, or have big brothers or big sisters come in and say, you know what, I can be, you know, your big brother and big sister and maybe guide you or mentor you. All these programs are happening in Maryland. Not saying that Baltimore is out of the woods, but Baltimore is even on a better track because people are starting to create these avenues. New Orleans, Louisiana, red state. Okay. Cleveland, Ohio, red state. Las Vegas, Nevada, they went red in this past election. Kansas City, Missouri, again, part of going back to St. Louis, red state. Memphis, Tennessee, red state. Thank you. And she put up the proper name. Brandon N. Scott is the mayor of Baltimore. And so, well, she put, and also Miss Johnson put here, no National Guard yet, because he's already focused. He claimed that he desires to send them to Baltimore, and he already said a couple of times about Memphis. So we're going to see. But we have to be powerful and responsible not to let certain things jump the way that they desire, or certain people may desire for it to go. So with that being said, we're going to go into the teaching. We're going to go into today's teaching, where we're going, you know, last week, you know, was a more of a umbrella